Hey everyone, I'm Joe, and today is time for my January reading wrap-up part 1. January was a really good reading month for me. I read 18 books in total, which is slightly above my average. In this part of my wrap-up, I will be talking about 8 of the books that I read. So without further delay, I'll get straight into talking about the books. The first of which is Penric's Mission by Lois, McMaster, Bujold. This is a fantasy novella. It is the third novella in an ongoing series by Bujold. I read the previous 2 in the last part of last year and I absolutely loved them. I actually classed them both as my favourite novellas that I read last year. And this is the third one, and this will probably be rated just as highly for 2017 because I absolutely loved it. Once again, it is set in a interesting fantasy world about a character called Penric and his demon called Desdemona, and indeed that is the name of the overall series, the Penric and Desdemona novellas. Penric sort of got Desdemona in his head when he was fairly young, and Desdemona is a curse demon who essentially allows him to use its knowledge from all its past lives to cast magic. So now Penric is on various adventures across the land. In this one, Penric's Mission, Penric has been told to go to his country and find out certain information about the country, and he gets caught up, however, in these sort of political games of this country. He gets imprisoned and he has to try not to obviously be killed and things, the usual sort of things. And frankly, I loved this. The plot was really interesting and really varied. The characters were fantastic, and overall it was just a really fun, really fast-paced and just overall well-paced novella. Indeed, so far, Bujold has not put a foot wrong for me at all. I've just loved everything she's wrote, and I hope to read a lot more in the coming future. So the next thing I read was not just one book, but it's actually 3 books that comprise a trilogy, and that is The Curse of Chalion, Paladin of Souls, and The Hallowed Hunt, all by Lois, McMaster, Bujold once again. Now these are set in the same world as the Penric's Mission, but this is set, these are the main novels. Indeed, she wrote these long before the 3 novellas. These are set several hundred years after, and they're based around a completely different set of characters, and they're almost totally unrelated in every respect, other than being in the same general world. And indeed, the world itself is the world of the 5 gods, because there are 5 gods, which all have a significant part to play within the overall story. Now, I'm not going to talk about the plots of these 3, because the second book, Paladin of Souls, was an award-winning book. It won a Hugo and a Nebula award, so I'll talk about that in a video next week at my science fiction and fantasy award winners project. But I will say that once again, these are brilliantly well paced. The characters are fantastic. The world's great. The plots are really interesting. And in these, she's able to expand upon the fairly short stories, the short length plots, obviously because the others were novellas. These are obviously full length, so she can expand it and be more complex. But the pacing is still fantastic. I mean, I've never known an author quite like Bujold so far for just being able to get the pacing of the books almost dead on every single time. The characters and the plot goes at exactly the right speed. Events happen when they feel like they should. There's no sort of weird gaps or odd events that just happen because they need to. This feels truly natural, and the writing is just fantastic. It really is. So for the next things I read, that would be 3 books by the same author, although they're unrelated to each other. Planets for Sale by A.E. Van Vogt, Destination Universe, also by Van Vogt, and The Gryb, also by Van Vogt. Now these 3 are short story collections. Planets for Sale is a fix-up novel of 5 short stories that are about the same character and indeed the same events that were then, after he wrote them, he sort of connected them together. I didn't realise this before I was reading it, however, so when I was reading it I did think that there's something a bit odd about the way certain chapters follow one another. Obviously that's because they were indeed written completely separately and then linked up and kind of edited a little bit. I liked this, but I didn't love it. It is a science fiction novel, obviously with a name like Planets for Sale. The plot is quite interesting in some ways, but it's a little bit cliched, and also some of the characters are a bit odd because the sort of psychology of the characters don't work that well, frankly. But I did fairly enjoy it, just not that much. The second one of them, Destination Universe, I enjoyed quite a bit actually. Now this was definitely my favourite out of these 3. This had 8 or 9 short stories in it. They're a bit more varied. The writing is a bit stronger, I thought, and also the ideas of these short stories were far stronger. And they just felt a bit more sort of classic science fiction, but without being weird. And the plots just worked basically better for me. I greatly enjoyed this. The Gryb, this only had like 5 or 6 short stories in it, and frankly I wasn't that impressed by this actually. This is probably my least favourite ever than Vogt, to be honest. I've only read like 6 in total now, including these 3, but this is definitely my least favourite of them. They just felt very sort of weakly written. The ideas behind the short stories were not that exciting for the whole. I mean, there was one of them that was quite good, but the rest of them not so much. And yeah, I didn't write this that well. I mean, it was okay. I mean, I didn't pay much for it, however, when I bought it last year, I think it was. So overall, I don't mind too much that it wasn't fantastic. You know, I brought them together and I knew that one of them would probably be good, one of them would probably be not so good. I mean, that comes to the territory when you're buying books based almost entirely because you've heard of the author and you have no idea what the book is about. So, you know, overall, they worked out. I mean, you know, they didn't cost much for the whole 3, so that's fine. The final book that I read is a science fiction classic, and that is The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Now, this is extremely well known. Of course, they made 2 films of this, one in the early 60s, one in the early 2000s, I believe, and with Tom Cruise, which I didn't particularly enjoy. Although, actually, weird enough, as far as the films go, the Tom Cruise one, parts of that are actually more accurate to this book than the original film was. The original film, whilst I like the feel of that film better, it's less accurate to the book. The book is quite simply a alien invasion story, pretty much the first alien invasion story. Martians come down to Earth in these big round cylinders. They crash land in southern England around the Greater London area. One guy, the narrator of the novel, he sees the first cylinder land because it's not all that far from where he lives with his wife, and he ends up basically sort of wandering around the countryside and into London whilst these Martians come out of their cylinders into these big 3-legged tripod walkers, which are what the picture on the front displays. That image is extremely iconic, of course. You know, these big 3-legged walkers with their big heat rays, burning everything up and burning all the people, setting light to the buildings and generally causing mass destruction and death. The ending is extremely well known. I'm not going to say what it is just on the off chance that you don't actually know it, but obviously I knew most of what was going to happen. However, I didn't quite know how it was going to be written because, of course, I've never even looked at this book before, and I did quite like it overall. I didn't love it because at parts the writing lets it down a little bit, and also the thing that I greatly didn't like about it was the main character, the narrator. He's basically really arrogant and somewhat sexist, frankly, and that makes it less than enjoyable to read at parts. But you know, it's only a minor thing and you can forgive it. I mean, it was the first alien invasion story. So overall, I am really glad I've read this. I really am. So with that said, that's it for all the books I read in this part of my wrap-up. I read 4 physical books, 4 ebooks. The 4 physical books I thought were pretty good. The 4 ebooks I thought were fantastic. All my social media links can be found in the description box below as always. Thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.